Private Members' Business, notice number 3, motion relating to minorities in Iraq.
The member for McMahon.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I seek leave to amend my notice.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted. The member for McMahon.
I move the motion in the notice paper as amended, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, this House has considered resolutions on the plight of the Assyrian and Chaldean people of Iraq in the past. But yet again we are obliged to speak out on behalf of Iraq's Christian minorities. The Assyrian and Chaldean people who have suffered so much in the past now perhaps face their greatest ever threat. And this is a very substantial threat indeed. This year and over the next 4 years, Christians of Iraq will be remembering 100 years of attacks, and they'll be remembering when Australia's famous soldier, Lieutenant General Savage, rode to the rescue of Christian people. And yet, 100 years later, Australia is being called upon again to stand up for the Christians of the Middle East. As I said, this is perhaps the most serious threat ever faced. The scourge of the Islamic State seeks to eliminate Iraq's indigenous people. Let me say very, very clearly, the Islamic State is seeking to commit genocide. And I ask the House to send the strongest possible message that we will not stand for it. But even more importantly, Mr Deputy Speaker, it's important that the House says, once the scourge of ISIS has been dealt with, once the scourge of the Islamic State has been expelled from Iraq, let us not miss that opportunity to ensure ongoing protection for the Christians of Iraq, real protections for the Christians of Iraq. And let us move to ensure that the Christians of Iraq have a safe haven which they can live in peace and prosperity, and they can live with reassurance. This has been agreed to by the former Iraqi government in principle, but we must keep moving forward. Now, in this current crisis, Mr Deputy Speaker, ISIS is daubing the homes of Christians with the letter N, standing for Nazareth or Nazarene, and they're giving them 3 choices: to pay a tax, a very substantial tax, convert, or to die. Today the House must say no, there is a 4th option: to continue to live in Iraq, to continue to practice their Christian faith without interference, in freedom, as they have the right to do. Now, the Assyrians and Chaldeans, Mr Deputy Speaker, have been facing, as I said, hundreds, thousands of years of persecution. But just in the last 10 years and more, since the fall of Saddam Hussein, it's the Assyrians and Chaldeans who have suffered so much. By some reports, before the fall of Hussein, there were well over 1.4 million adherents of the Christian faith in Iraq. Now there are potentially somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 left. Churches are being destroyed and desecrated. Murders and rapes are being committed. Towns like Mosul and Tikrit, Nineveh Plains, home to the Christians of Iraq, have been taken over or under threat. The Christians of Iraq in Iraq need to know, those in Australia need to know, those around the world need to know that Australia stands with them, and that this House stands as one, across the divide with them. And it's very important, Deputy Speaker, that this message goes out strongly as possible from this House today, as it has from many individual members, and as it has from the Christian Iraq community in Australia. I want to acknowledge the work of so many leaders, and some represented in the gallery today and others who couldn't be with us today. And in no particular order, but the Assyrian Universal Alliance, the Assyrian Australian National Federation, the Young Assyrians, Christian Faith and Freedom, the Australian Chaldean Federation, the Chaldean National Congress, the Chaldean Australia Society and the Bat Naya Australia Group, just some of the groups represented in the House today and other groups represented in the community. I want to acknowledge and thank Bill Shorten and Tanya Plibersek, the Leader and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, for making time available to meet with representatives of the various groups so that they can be properly briefed. But today the House sends the strongest possible message, as we've done in the past, and may, Mr Deputy Speaker, we never have to do in the future, because the people of Iraq's Christians can live in freedom.